I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the Paradise Recreation and Park District Board of Directors. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call?
Director Alma Green. Director Mary Belfay. Here. Secretary Steve Rodwick.
Here.
Vice Chairperson Jen Goodland. Here. Chairperson Robert Anderson.
Here. Do we have any guests online? Welcome. At this point, I'm going to open it to public comment for anything that is not on this agenda tonight.
Participants, feel free to raise your hand if there's anything you'd like to address.
All right. That brings us to the consent agenda.
I'd like to pull item 3.1.
Sure, motion to approve the consent agenda minus item 3.1.
I'll second.
Madam Clerk, roll call.
Director Alma Green.
Aye.
Director Mary Belfay.
Aye.
Secretary Steve Rodwick.
Aye.
Vice Chairperson Jen Goodland. Aye. And Chairperson Robert Anderson.
Aye.
Motion carries with 5 ayes. Just wanted to point out a correction on the June 12th minutes for resolution 24-06-2-540. I accidentally wrote 5 ayes instead of 4. There's only 4 ayes because Jen was absent. And then 6.1, I wrote there and not, it should have been the. So those corrections were made on those minutes.
Mr. Chairman, approve those minutes as corrected. I'll second.
Madam Clerk, roll call.
Director Alma Green.
Aye.
Director Mary Belfay.
Aye.
Secretary Steve Rodwick.
Aye.
Vice Chairperson Jen Goodland. Aye. And Chairperson Robert Anderson.
Aye.
Motion carries with 5 ayes.
And that brings us to committee reports. Mary?
The Rec and Park Committee met on June 27th and we looked at the proposal for the Aqua Center rebuild. And we had a drawing that we kind of talked about a whole lot of things. For example, adding windows and what that would mean if we did that for protection and extra doors, and discuss lighting differences that might enhance the room a little better, and actual placement of where the Aqua Center might be actually, literally on the property. And decided we gave direction to staff to review the things we discussed with the ROMAC, I think it is. ROMAC, and they're going to be put on that later on the agenda.
Thank you, Mary. That brings us to item 5.1, Yellowstone Kelly Trail Bike Skills, Features and Amenities. Dan?
Yeah, so last month we had a presentation from American Ramp Company on this item. It was a draft form, received some comments, and they did some revisions to it. And that's in the packet. Excuse me. Starting on page 20. No, I'm sorry. Page 15. So that material is attached. We are recommending acceptance of the plan with those modifications from last month. Happy to take any questions.
No questions? No, not from online? Ben, can we get a motion?
I do have one question. If the board accepts this report with modification, what is the next step? What happens next?
Yeah, so you know what will happen next is this will be shared, and it has been shared with the town of Paradise, but it kind of formalizes that action. Also, you know, kind of satisfies our obligation to the county for the funding on that. So it just sort of brings that funding cycle to a close. It's not a binding document, and clearly we don't have that purview over the Yellowstone Kelly Trail. That certainly is with the town, and as we discussed last time, a permitting process and CEQA and funding source and even evaluation of their past plans on the Yellowstone Kelly Trail. So this is just simply just kind of accepting the obligation that they've met the obligation for it, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
Will there be a possibility that the subject, beyond the report itself, but the subject relative to the town's position, which may or may not be pursued some of this, will that be a discussion topic for the liaison committee between our district and?
Yeah,
and the
absolutely.
town?
And in fact, Sarah, we should make a note of on the next liaison committee meeting that we have it as an item and even have the report attached. So that's
Okay.
that was our intention, is to bring it up there, because that seems to be has come up in the past as far as a light discussion on it, but now that it's more complete, it'd be great to do.
Was there at the last meeting, excuse me, I know I was on via Zoom, but I got the feeling there was several public in attendance at the meeting. Was there any feedback, like from Paradise Horsemen's Association or?
Yeah, you know, it was a little hard to follow because most of their comments, they were providing chat information. So a lot of it had been addressed in there. I think one kind of disconnect on this is we had wanted to get a lot of kind of more general input on anything, you know, from all users might use it, drinking fountains and placement of facilities and so forth. It definitely had a bike focus. And so that was the intent of it. Yet we want to include some of the elements that questions have brought up. And I think I mentioned some of those. One was kind of a rock garden type area where they could work on desensitizing their horses to obstacles, gates, you know, just set up a gate that has no fence to it, just a gate that they would open up from mounted on a horse. So there are features like that were suggested that seem relatively easy, and especially a room could be placed in the right location, especially as I think a director had mentioned the last meeting, having it real close to Moore Road makes a lot of sense. So they could go straight from the arena to work on some skills that could be right in back of us there. And that may be something too that we just simply add to our grounds too. That might be a more appropriate location for some of those features. Another item that came up is ensuring that any sort of bike related features that can't accommodate horses, that be made clear, and that there was passage. So if there was an equestrian riding through that area, they wouldn't have to go up and over or around an item, that there would be some way that they could clearly cross that could be marked. So I think that would come into the design portion of it. But those comments were made and seemed to be our response seemed to be
Yes,
received
that was-
well.
That was the impression I got. The American Ramp Company was keenly aware of the concerns the Horsemen's Association had. And going forward, they will probably still, you know, reach out to either us or the Horsemen's Association to make sure everything is like good to go. Because, you know, they don't want issues. We don't want issues. So.
Yeah, and I think one thing to keep in mind, Director Roderick's right, that this is the phase where we're talking about, like, is this a good idea or not? What does it look like? What are some costs associated with it? You know, I know one concern I have on any of these bike features is long-term maintenance on it. So is it something that can be easily maintain or minimally maintain, let me put it that way? Or is it something that requires a lot of inspection or repair or someone checking up on it on a regular basis? Because I think that a lot of these features, when you see them in places, and American Rep mentioned this too, especially municipalities are going towards hardened features where it's installed, it works until it fails 20 years from now. So it has to be replaced rather than something that requires constant shaping or care on it. So I think that's something we'll have to consider the next phase for sure. But it does give us a starting point to seek funding, or, I think importantly for us is there's likely to be, with the economic situation, I think the state budget is and all that, phases that we'll go through. And the first phase, it could be a flow trail that would be pretty easy to install. Not installing a lot of exterior equipment or surfaces, just kind of shaping what's there. So that could be a first step. And then some of these other things wait for future funding.
The lady presenting from American Ramp was pretty clear on, and I guess she talked about an option about somebody from the organization doing some of the landscape for the ramps and different things versus hardscape or whatever you want to call fixed obstacles, and said, yeah, we'll do it and we'll oversee it, but long term, it's going to require a lot less maintenance if you just let us do it and have attach the rocks to the rocks underneath in the ground and all the things she talked about. But she did make that clear it would last longer.
Can we get a motion?
Mr. Chairman, the Stone County Trail Black Skills features and these plans as modified and prepared by American Ramp Company.
I'll second.
Madam Clerk?
Director Alma Green. Director Mary Belfay.
Aye.
Secretary C. Rodwig.
Aye.
Vice Chairperson Jen Goodlin.
Aye.
And Chairperson Robert Anderson.
Aye.
Motion carries with 5 ayes. Can I get who seconded it one more time? Thank you.
That brings us to item 5.2, the Aquatic Center rebuild, which we spoke about earlier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is an item that's been in the slow cooker for a long time for us. So it's gone through a couple of different revisions and kind of some direction changes. I think we're working with insurance, but it's kind of become closer, more into focus here. So we have been working with Romtech, and who's actually out of Oregon, but they do work for CARD, for example. So they have a very strong presence in Northern California. So they have provided us with a revised, actually not quite yet. This one was revised, but they have an additional one that they have, that they were trying to get to us today. And I do not see it. Did you get anything today? So they were very responsive on the first set of questions that we had on lights, for example, but they were trying to redo the whole plan, given that input. So that's not quite in the packet here. But I think one or two things on that. They did provide a cost breakdown on this. I don't know if the additional revisions will send that upward. So for example, there are a few items, cabinets, for example, that may increase that amount. However, there is most of this will be options that are coming through the insurance. So that funding is there on it. There is a component, and I'm looking at page 119, by the way, component that we had separated out that we called district upgrades. So we wanted to make sure that we had a good understanding that matched with the previous building, upgrade code and all of that. And that's the existing building replacement. That would be kind of the insurance funding source. And then these upgrades were additions to that. Principal upgrade is square footage. So we're looking at an increased size. If directors recall that previous building was really small. And so this would kind of bring it up to essentially a classroom size. So it could serve as potentially a size right for a STEM lab, which could be a potential use. Additional uses for our tiny tots and even a lot of some of the other recreation programs, the camps and so forth. We don't have places to put them. So it'd be a nice addition there. And a lot of our camp activities could be run out of that. It would provide us with some additional office space too, replacing what was there before. There was office space there. And we had, as Director Belfay mentioned, that there were a lot of discussions about positioning and some of the other nuances on the site. So we'll do a site visit when they're ready and sort of get that positioned right. So I did run across, by the way, it was a district. I don't know what year it's from, but there was kind of a district sketch. I don't know if the board ever saw it, but of kind of future conceptual ideas for it. And that might be interesting to see the position of where they had some of the features there. They also had some features that we aren't putting in. So for example, they had a gym, a small gym that was put in there on the map, but dreaming is free. So that was on there. I think our biggest concern on it is just making sure that it's in a spot where if we're doing something in the future, it's not limiting us. And so we had a lot of discussion about moving the building closer towards the front of the street where you can't infringe on that much more anyway, so it leaves you more room in the back to expand or do some programming. Putting some ADA parking in there, that's going to change some of the mix and have people have better access from an ADA standpoint to the pool area. So those are some things that came up. RomTech was trying to take those into account, rerun the CAD drawings and give us an update on it with our comments, but they didn't make that deadline today.
Is that what we were hoping for, like an updated floor plan? Because that's what I was looking for in here, and
Yeah,
there's none.
Yeah, and the thing is with it is that as volumes, I think, because that plan could change. So when they go out on site, any of that can move. It won't be like they're going to build that building, bring it out here no matter what. So there's going to be a planning process. This allows us, by approving this, allows them to get paid for that design work and really start it in earnest, because as a proposal stage, we haven't paid them for anything for over months and months of revisions and honing it down. So my recommendation would be this, that we have the action would be to move forward with this with a contingency dollar amount built in that budget. So that there's if it increases by a certain dollar amount, that authorization would be there for me to move forward with it. I don't suspect it would go up very much. They've been pretty consistent on their pricing, but there might have been some changes. The window, anything that we requested is additional costs. So anyway,
have they made accommodations for the resident pool chicken that just is always there?
That's something we could probably handle on our own.
Okay.
You haven't seen the floor plan?
No.
We had a pretty good.
Wasn't here.
My memory is really fuzzy on where the building was.
Yeah. So when you're facing the pool, it's the cutout area. So there's a little carved out area in the asphalt. It was set back fair distance away from the pool, fair distance from the street even, but it was originally a repurposed building that was a shop building. So it was pretty nondescript, kind of classic 1950s paradise architecture with cinder block and prison-like windows. So, but it did have kind of lovely woodwork inside. You'd be surprised what was inside it. And so that's where it was. We had opportunity because with this funding to move it and change the configuration, and that shouldn't change the cost. In fact, there may be some limitations on where we put it because of the septic and where the future sewer alignment may be. So there may be some advantages to, getting that position just right. But there's a lot of design work to come. Let me put it this way. There was two versions of the floor plan that we had at committee that had the large, and I'm surprised it wasn't on this, but it has a larger classroom area. The configuration had a little office that had a window that you can sell concessions out of, a restroom, external restroom, a storage area, and a small meeting space in there. So there's an additional room. It also had, and I think this was a request from our rec staff that runs Tiny Tots programs out of there, an internal restroom. So that's a substantial cost, yet that's probably critical for us from a programming standpoint and just efficiency, because otherwise they have to devote a staff member probably constantly going out with the youngsters out to the external restrooms rather than an internal one that can be more easily monitored. So that's reflected in this cost here, but there may be some of the other changes that we tossed in extra door, extra windows, that type of thing.
So does staff or the community, the ultimate square footage of this new building will be? I would like to know that.
Sure. Let me look at. I thought it was in here.
I think it was around 2,000 square feet, wasn't it?
Sorry, what did you say?
I think it was around 2,000 square feet.
I think that's right. I want
I
to
think
look.
the main room was like 1,400 by
Yeah.
itself.
Okay.
Yeah. So that when I said that STEM lab, it has a requirement of at least being, I think it's 1,350 square footage for the classroom portion of it. The building's roughly double what it was previously.
Good. That's
So
helpful.
That may help you give some perspective.
That helps me as an old timer because I'm at a small amount. Okay.
It's big enough for 2 ping pong tables now.
Right. So my other question is, if the board authorizes this agenda item tonight and you proceed, then staff, do you have any approximate idea of what the timeline is going to be for getting this built and possibly
Yeah.
operational before the end of the calendar year?
I think end of the calendar year is a little challenging because of the following. We have a swim season. We don't want to disrupt the swim season.
Right.
So we're going to wait for after the swim season to get that. There is a fair amount of work that needs to be done for, town, working through the town permitting process. The actual construction and installation is pretty quick. So once we get kind of through those initial hoops and they start building it together,
Right.
we anticipate it being done before the next swim season.
So weather might become a factor during that timeline, perhaps.
Not as much because most of it's going to be constructed off-site.
Well, I understand that.
Yeah.
Other aspects like, the interconnection to a septic system and,
Yeah.
and
Trenching, earthwork.
right,
Yeah.
right, that type of stuff. So there's a possibility you would. And what the other thing is, my other question is, assuming we authorize this tonight, as you proceed forward with this firm, I recommend that you keep in touch with our standing committee and keep them apprised of what's going on with that type of thing. And if there's something that's worth sharing with the full board, then they would tell you that type of thing.
I think that's something that both committee members share keen interest in what this would look like and how it's configured. So we had even talked about a participation with a committee member or both of them during the site visits and some of the other stuff so they can be well in the loop on it. I think approval of this certainly means that all of a sudden you don't hear about a thing until the doors open, that there's a lot of steps along the way. This is essentially a design build approach. So it's unlike some of the other things maybe the board has done in the past where there's first this design and you chew through that and then you go through the building phase of it. So this is more all wrapped up together in both design and construction occurring underneath the same contract.
Well, one thing I think will be interesting as you proceed ahead, assuming we approve this tonight, which I think we will. And if you do, keep the committee constantly in the know, is when you, contractor experiences with the town relative to the relationship to the septic system and future sewers lines and so forth, might be very enlightening for you to share that with the committee once you find that
Yeah.
out. I have no idea how that's going to play out, but I think that's going to be worthwhile because it may be repeated time and time again on some of our other projects as we proceed over time. So just a suggestion again, but
That is kind of interesting you bring that up. Is Bushman on the sewer project? Or is it Pearson?
It's
know
Pearson is, yeah.
Okay, I didn't think so. So that just leads me to think. Yeah, because it's not going to go uphill.
Intermediate school is gonna be on system.
Yes, yeah.
So timing that probably wouldn't be a reach.
Something to think about.
Yeah, and then this is early conversations we had with them. So, you know, a lot of I can't even remember who we chatted with about it, but when we were exploring options for the shop, for example, that there was they had chatted about, of course, picking up, you know, the school and you know, recreation drive there with our facility. So it was on their radar. And certainly we have a big demand with anything that relates to the pool and draining the pool, because we can't just dump that
Right.
chlorinated water out anywhere. So
Right.
we have a sized septic system for that. And that certainly would need to be part of the system in the future. So.
thank you. Thanks for the reminder. This is somewhat related to this agenda item, but assuming we proceed ahead, this may be worthwhile to put on a future agenda for us to discuss as a board and seek direction from the board whether or not we want staff to pursue the targeted sewer area to be amended by the town of Paradise to come and include that property. It just makes sense. And timing's everything, because as we speak, the design is already underway for the sewer project. So the sooner that dialogue takes place, the better, perhaps. But I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know how the rest of you feel.
My only input on that is really any building that you're doing, you should just be proceeding as if the sewer system was not going to happen. Cause there's no funding for it even yet.
I realize that,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying
Yeah.
we want the targeted area to be amended so it can be expanded. So when funding does become available, perhaps we'll become eligible.
And perhaps that's something, and someone on our board that has planning experience could look into that, because I think that it would surprise me if they have omitted that as a consideration there. But certainly when we start walking through the Director Goodland's point, I think is right on, is where the design is not assuming, well, it's assuming there may be a future septic and where that needs to go and that
Right.
connection.
No,
It'll have a new septic system for the building.
I understand we're tied to the design based on the reality today. All I'm suggesting is that as we proceed, knowing the heavy usage of the swimming pool and everything else, it might be in the long-term public's best interest if we dialogue with the town and hopefully are successful with them to amend the targeted area to include that area. All I'm saying.
What's wrong with the old septic?
It probably failed somewhere in the mid-90s, but no, it's not serviceable. The building, I think, was built mid-70s, if not earlier.
I bought a piece of property that the septic passed. Septic
Yeah.
was fine.
We had
It
it
was,
tested.
it was a.
We did have it tested, and it wasn't serviceable.
I appreciate your thoughtful consideration on utilizing the insurance funds, but also capitalizing on your getting a new building and to expand it in specific areas that will help the district. but not be too frivolous. So thank you for all of that.
Thank you.
I make a motion that we allow the district manager to complete all the agreements related to the planning and construction of the Aqua Center facility.
I'll second.
Question on the motion, as seconded, does that include authorizing staff to include contingency funding if necessary as this proceeds?
Did we talk about contingency funding?
Yeah, and I'll refer to page 112. So I have a little breakdown on there. One thing that I think is really helpful and how we structured this for our budget. So we kind of lumped it together with other district rebuild items. So we have a lot of funds. I won't say a lot. We have substantial funds set aside for rebuild. District funds that are intended for upgrades, not just the insurance side of it. So, I think what would be my recommendation is, that amount that we have here, let's go with that because that's what the board is seeing tonight. And it'd be speculative to come up with something else. On the page there, we have the line, if additional funds are needed, staff will turn to the board for authorization. But we do have authorization for funds to expend towards projects like this already with our budget authorization. So I think it's just a matter of reporting back, and it could be the type of thing that, on the rebuild projects, we have these funds set aside. The shop has upgrades, or this building has upgrades, or it doesn't, there it's a little bit fluid, but we'll keep the staff will keep the directors in the loop as far as what additional costs are. And if it exceeds those amount, we'll come.
That answers my question. So your motion stands. That's.
However, there is a public comment.
I apologize. I haven't asked for if there was public comment. Is there public comment on this issue?
Yes. John S. has typed a comment stating that the junior high is in the sewer service area and that aquatic park across the street is not at this time. Make sure that's.
Thank you, John. Dan, you need to get on that. Because our existing building needs to be on it also.
Yeah. That's probably why because that's been early on. We put in that request. So that's good information, and
We'll spring with 300 feet of pipe for them.
Sorry, what was that?
We'll spring for 300 feet of pipe.
Yeah.
Get to the intermediate school.
So, Mr. Chair, we have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. So,
Has it been seconded?
oh, yeah.
Okay. Madam Clerk, we have a roll call vote.
Director Alma Green,
Happily, aye.
Director Mary Belfay,
Aye.
Secretary Steve Roderick,
Aye.
Vice Chairperson Jen Goodland,
Aye.
and Chairperson Robert Anderson.
Aye.
Motion carries with 5 ayes.
That brings us to the district report. Dan?
I think just a couple things to mention. One thing that we had a suggestion, I think was a good one, to have the board liaison report move to just board comment. So just keep that in mind, that the board comment will also include any liaison reports. I think what we'd like to do is have Scott start off with just a whole bunch of activities occurring right now with our programming.
Awful. I feel like a lifetime of things have happened since standing up in front of you just a month ago. Yeah.
We had National Trails Day. It was amazing. You'll see some, Christy, can I have you scroll down to the pictures, please? Y'all are going to want to see the pictures. I think there's 30 pictures for this month. There's quite a few. Well, I speak in hyperbole. There's a lot. Yes. So we had National Trails Day.
Seen the document up.
It's up on the board.
Oh.
Gotcha. Cool. There you go. Go back up, Christy. Awesome. So go back up, Christy. Awesome. So these are photos of the grotto. I wanted to make one that
I'll cover this. Yeah.
Okay. Christy, cruise. Okay, there we go. No, I'll get to that in a second. Okay, so we had National Trails Day and a bunch of folks hiked down to the grotto. That's what I was looking for, Mr. SF. And I've hiked down there as well. It's gorgeous. Our drone camp participants flew the drones down there and took a bunch of photos so that we can include those at the end of drone camp as well. National Trails Day, the community members, PRPD staff, and the Concow Valley Band of Mighty representatives joined us at Billy Park to show appreciation for the local trails, and they hiked on down. Aquatics, the first 6 days of the Paradise Pool had a total attendance of 568 people, and this was before the heat wave hit. In comparison, the first 6 days of 23 season saw 256 swimmers. So we're doubling, which is pretty darn cool. Hopefully this is an encouraging sign for the rest of the summer, and we'll report on the pool at the end. The Concow pool was able to be open on June 17th, 1 week after the planned opening due to the equipment failure. And there's some pictures of that up there as well. Swimmers swimming in Concow. We also have Levi there showing the swim lesson participants here up in Paradise. Softball is happening. It's going down. Willie D is doing what he does best. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night starting at 6:30. It looks like we've got 25 teams participating, which is a lot of teams. We're really excited about that. First half of the season will run through July 24th. Then we got playoffs. Summertime Tots are full, packed. The program has a total of 48 children participating. One of the perks of the program is the free lunch, and we've got some photos of the students getting lunch. We've also, they're going to do something very special for that group. They're going to make a big like mural-y project and give it to the lunch ladies, because the lunch ladies have become friends of the children. So I thought that was kind of neat. So that program is at full capacity. Pony 101 class started the 21st, and there are 10 children there. Capacity for that class is 20. So that's 50%. Check that shot out of astronomy on the lake. We have such a cool product with this experience. This Saturday is it's the last one for this activity guide. It's so well received and it's so sold out that we're looking at doing it through October as well. Yeah. And frankly, I know what's that? You're right. And the night sky has the most action in the areas that we can see well from the lake in October. So, and us Libras, we are going to be highly aware of the lunar cycles. You got to push the microphone out.
I'm sorry, I thought I had on.
Yes.
Is there any possibility we can coordinate a board outing on the lake of some kind, whether it's a Starling
Yes.
link or something? I don't know, but
Yes.
team building, whatever.
Yeah. We'll keep you posted on that.
Figure 25 says Eagles at Aquatic Park. They're not at Aquatic Park. Where are they?
They're at the 4 Bay. I'm getting there.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
It looked like.
Yes. With that, summer camps are happening, and standing here last year, we were like, hey, we've got these sold out camps. Clearly the public wants more. We received that. And that has not been the case. Our attendance at the camps is teetering around 30% right now, capacity. What's that? This was before the heat. So no, I actually think, I don't think it's our marketing. The Cards experiencing some interesting things like that all throughout our area. People are not showing up like they have in the past for some things. And then for others, we're booked. I will say that we did what we tried to do is a multi age group model, and we ironed out a bunch of the bugs with that, with the several drop off points. It's a really, really neat model that I think just needed a year to get baked in. Next year, I think it's going to fly, because there's just nothing like it where you can get dropped off and then taken to all these different spots, or at least as far as I know. I do want to shout out to the 845 experience hours. That's a metric you're going to hear from us often. Director, you have a question?
Yes, I was going to say that was a deter for me,
What's that?
the different drop-offs.
Okay. Good to
So
know.
families with more than one child, which often are in that close age groups, it's hard to be dropping off and picking up at different locations.
Yeah. We heard that from some of the part. We actually had a family that had that same situation. And what we ended up figuring out was that it was a novel idea to have them all dropped off, but we could have actually had them dropped off here, depending on the number of participants. Because the camp didn't have as many participants, we didn't need both of the vans to go in different places. So we could have had everyone dropped off here. And so those vans, again, are just an incredibly valuable resource for us. Camp Courage came and went, and we have a very, very good partnership with the Altacal Birding Society. Jared and the Altacal actually gave us $1,000 and then came out and for scholarships, and then came out and provided 3 days of programming at the lake for us in the middle of the week. So we have a great thing going with this group, and expect more. Aquatic camp, same thing, 20% capacity. And that was a drop off here the entire week type of day. It was also a really, really neat camp. They had a lot of fun. While those camps were happening, we also ran a program with Achieve School right next to us here. Every Thursday last month, staff in purple shirts went out and worked with them every Thursday for their expanded learning program. And they all got to fly drones on that day. That's figure 27. Lots more to do with Achieve. Also in the outdoor education for all realm, the Youth Advisory Council is waiting to hear on Cal State Parks grant. I thought I was going to be able to give you info today on whether we received it or not, because they said they would have it done by the end of the month, last month, but they don't yet. Healing trauma through nature. Yeah, that's 980 hours for the Achieve program. And then we did the party at the pool, and there were 150 people there, and it was awesome. Beautiful evening. The setup and tear down is getting smoother and smoother. The pool staff is absolutely amazing. And a shout out to Mark and his crew for going the extra mile to make sure that it was dark enough. We learned that we could actually turn a bunch of lights off or pull out bulbs to make sure that you didn't have like a weird eyesore coming at you. And we expect it to be a great turnout for next Friday, Jaws at the pool. And then, of course, we have the Ridge Hiking Association. You might be hearing a lot more about the Ridge Hiking Association coming up. 12 hikers joined us at the Brad Freeman, and there was a last minute shift due to staffing concerns. Everyone's considered the location change and loved the historical railroad tunnel at an old Feather River bathhouse. At the pool?
A tunnel light switch. Did you use a tunnel light switch?
That's like a colloquial we. I was not.
Oh.
Yeah, no. The neighborhood grant's going very well. Concal public meeting. I think Dan might want to speak to that a little bit more. And then the Centerville 49er Fair, staff provided a shuttle service, which we've done for the last couple of years. Very, very well received again for those incredibly valuable vans. And I'd love to answer questions.
Great report. Lots of things going on, which is good to hear. And I also heard through various people that the multi drop off place was not ideal.
Got it.
So, but on the astronomy on the lake, could that be something that could maybe be set up for private parties if they wanted to have a guided?
We had someone inquire about that afterwards, and I've had 3 people inquire about private party rentals for that. And yes is the quick answer. If you recall, a couple of years ago, Academy Mortgage came into town and hired us to do that for 35 people at a time for at the tone of $5,000 per. I'm pretty sure it was a $10,000 contract for 2 days worth of work. So it's a very, very valuable product of ours. And as soon as the lake house has a little bit more accessibility and that type of thing, yeah, we could wrap in catering. We could wrap in, I actually think it could be a beautiful addition to like a prom party or something like that. Maybe on I don't know. Anyways, yeah, we've been asked several times, and one of the participants asked us for a quote and then didn't get back to us on that.
Cool.
Yep.
Thanks, Scott.
Pleasure.
Yeah, so tons of stuff going on, and it's kind of nice. I mean, even though there's some of the camps have only a few participants, we try to make a real commitment to keeping them going. So the students that are participating are having good experiences, and it's nice to see a lot of different activities in the building. Anything from, cars to guitars to anything else in between. Cars, guitars, and stars, I guess, is your report, right? Mm-hmm. We've attached on here the NARPA annual agency review. I'm not going to say a whole lot about it other than I think it's something every year interesting to look at and, kind of compare us with what's going on in the rest of the country. Scott took my thunder. That was Mark's thunder on the Grotto Bridge. So our crew's been working on the grotto on the trail going down. The trail needs a little bit of work still. But if you've been out there, that it looks beautiful, and it's a nice place to sit and contemplate and look at the canyon and watch the, turkey vultures fly by. It's really, they did a great job on it. They're also working on a couple of other things. So one thing that, there's going to be a new trail we're calling the Fawn Ridge Trail, which is going to go out along the fence line. It just gives a little different perspective. And I think it's going to allow folks to get, especially those that may have limitations on how far they can walk, getting a view that feels like you're immersed in the canyon. So we're going to lay out a bench there.
Is that the fence line that runs behind Porter, the cul-de-sac?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you kind of go where there's the old trail that kind of goes out to the lookout or the point there. This stays high and doesn't go very far, but there is, it's doing a couple of things for us. One is we're working on some techniques for staff on trail building and using rock as retaining walls. So that's good practice for them. It's going to have a bench there. Another thing they put in there that I think is a great addition and looks fantastic. I'll have some pictures of it next time, but interpretive signs. So we have some really great interpretive signs out there now. And there's a certain format that we're using. If you look, the installation is really great. Our crew did a top-notch job. It's secure. It's sturdy. It's going to last well. It's powder-coated steel. The signs themselves are vinyl, so we can have them printed out if they're defaced or need replacement in the future. Pretty easy installation. And then I think importantly, it also has MIDU words on there for some of the plants and concow. So we have, a cultural dimension on each of the signs as well. So keep an eye out for those. Crew's going to be working on the trails probably the next couple of months as they tidy up some other vegetation related.
This question, is there plans to put any kind of educational thing adjacent to the grinding rock?
No. Yeah, and that's intentional. So we have some interpretive signs that talk about features in general. There is a sort of like people that know what that is and look for it. And there's some other evidence of artifacts and structures over there. You can start. If you draw, it's a strange thing, but if you draw too much attention to it, it can be defaced, even stolen. Some items have been taken from different places. So we kind of have opted for a soft touch there. We may have a sign in the future. We have some interpretive signs coming up. It's pretty obvious at that site, but we kind of are taking a light touch on any features culturally that are on site. Let's see, we got irrigation in at Noble Park on the trees that were planted there. And that's looking pretty good. One thing I'll jump to is next month. Make sure next month we have Kristen on the agenda to do a neighbor to neighbor presentation. But that's going pretty well. We had a public meeting in Concow that had some of the elements that we're trying with that. So some conversation starters. We had a game set up that people were very participatory on. It was great turnout and really good constructive comments. So it was all in all a great meeting and just set up in the shade, nice spacing and just really good comments from the members of the public there. Our crew, I think it's the third year now, that crew provided some shuttle service for the 49er fair. I just got notice from our folks from the Centerville Schoolhouse that they're wanting to accelerate some conversations regarding insurance. So that may be something that we'll be bringing back to the board here shortly. We got two $10,000 checks from Rotary. So for our Lake Ridge Park project. So it was really exciting. One from Paradise Rotary, the other from the foundation, Paradise Rotary Foundation, separate entities, but contributing to it. And so that's, we're, very pleased that they followed through on that generous gift. So that's coming up. Nexus study. So this is how we evaluate our impact fees. And Blair Osp had provided a little bit of a schedule. I thought I'd share it with you guys as to what it looks like, the information and some milestones. So hopefully we keep on track with that. There's a lot of information that he has to crunch through to get there. So we'll looking at it. Says obviously we're in summer now. So he indicated later on in the summer. So probably, August or September, getting something. And that's it, unless there's any questions on the materials. I will mention one thing that's important. We did get in our deposit from the county. If you look at our profit and loss statement, I think from the previous month, it was $500K, negative $500K. And that's been cut in half, even though we had quite a bit of additional expenses for the month. So that'll be finalized here shortly. But and that you want to look at that is page 165. So that has starts there. And Sarah, do you want to talk about our budget document you put together?
Oh yeah, the budget binders are done. Oh wait, yeah, I thought I forgot him inside. I was about to be like, oh, I forgot him. Yeah, sorry guys. So we did remove some things this year that just we were trying to simplify the binder. we didn't separate the budget report like we've done in past years where there's about like 8 tabs, I think, and you're shuffling through. Like we kept the narrative that you guys have seen multiple times together because you look at the most. We added our budget codes that we use like when we're doing receipts and stuff, just to help maybe in the future with the profit loss at the end, that's in every district report. That might help you, I guess, understand like what the codes are. Then I just updated some of our facilities and some of our district information. So there are some things different in this one. Like doesn't have the committee assignments in there because you guys already know those. Doesn't have like, I think, our mission statement. We just kept it strictly like financial this time. So
And just so you know, you guys know, staff gets these as well. So key staff gets these, and almost everybody on staff will print out our budget code cheat sheet. So we just thought, hey, let's put it in here. And I think it's good for board members to know every item that we get, a receipt, that sheet is what we use to code it. So it's not just here's the receipt, here you go. It has what program it goes to, but and the coding there helps us kind of get it to the right spot. Some cases get it to the right grant. So thank you, Sarah.
Is that, excuse me, is that what the first 2 pages are?
Yeah, yeah. So that's you might recall from 3 or 4 years ago, we did a revision to our budget coding. Right. So that's kind of the product of it, is that sheet.
It just doesn't indicate that their budget code sheet. I mean, it just says it's a balance sheet. I mean, you can tell what it is if you know what you're looking for, but
yeah,
if you don't know what you're looking for, it doesn't say what it is.
Book structure. So that's the structure for it. So those are balance sheet items, construction in progress as a separate category, and so forth. So it kind of helps folks when they're coding it, they're not using the balance sheet very much. It's just informational. So if you want to write that coding on the top, it's basically your cheat sheet. So happy to answer any questions.
I don't have any questions now about this, but I might after I get a chance to look through it.
Sure. Yeah.
Is that it for district report?
I have a question on page 165. We're looking at profit and loss budget versus actual for this last fiscal year. This is the time where we usually get this end result, basically. I guess what I want to point out is under income, where it talks about various items, there was we budgeted, I guess we were well off the mark what we thought we'd get in grant income. And I realize there's various reasons for why that didn't turn to reality. Some of it is delays with the state. Some of it is we just didn't succeed in some of the things we applied for, or whatever, that type of thing. But how does the staff react to that as you're building the budget for the next fiscal year? It seems to me you take that into account, and I think over the last few fiscal years, slowly but surely, we've been conservatively modifying our overzealous anticipation of grant income and that type of thing coming in. Is that true?
I wouldn't characterize it overzealous.
Okay.
So we are refining. We're learning more.
Right.
And I would, it's a little bit different, I think, on that, the grants on there. Those are actually the calculation that we did in past years were actually secured funds.
Oh.
So what happens, and think about it this way, if we knew what we knew when we did it, right? And we said, okay, the state's going to be slow. It's going to be a slow process to get it. We're going to have that dollar amount down. we wouldn't have the approach of having those funds are available to spend. So, we try to have a realistic balance between what we thought we might spend or encumber, with the state. And then as you get reimbursed, there's gonna be a lag time, and there's gonna be a bonus year, for example, that
Right.
will look like we have a fat budget, when in reality, it's simply reimbursing us for
Right.
past years. So I think that's how I'd characterize it. And
That's
we're
good.
trying to bring it a little closer to alignment with what we've learned last couple of years.
Right,
So, that's certainly the case. And you'll notice the budget reflects that. However, I'll give you one example. Oh, this is still next month's thunder a little bit, but we had first day of this fiscal year, we'll have approximately $190,000 in various grant stuff that'll come through. So one day we had $36,000. We didn't do $36,000 of work this fiscal year. So there's that lag time is starting to catch up. And so I think we'll start seeing that balance a little bit more.
That's helpful to know. I'm just curious about, on this page, look at income item 4,600, which is titled Other Revenue. And only 5% of what we budgeted or anticipated by adopted budget has come in. I don't recall what other revenue is. Maybe you can enlighten us.
Yeah.
I'm a member of the finance committee. What is that?
That's a good one to note. So other revenue, it catches, actually the action tonight on the aquatic rec building will probably allow us to access other revenue. So it's the insurance reimbursements. It's other things that don't fit into tidy little boxes. We have, and Chris, you could probably remind me the number, but for example, they're still working on the documentation, which has been tough because they've had to go through basically every receipt for a 2-year period and every timesheet for a 2-year period on our lost revenue. So that's not going towards a building. It's not going towards expenses. It'll go to compensate us for our lost business income.
Right.
And that's going to be a substantial fund. We thought naively that it was going to be in the last fiscal year. But it's probably on the order. What do you think the dollar amount might be with that? And maybe that's putting you on the spot, but I know that we had known what that number was at some point.
Yeah, I'm not as clear on that one because that's primarily Catherine that's been working on it. But I can confirm, for instance, the Moore Road ballpark, that's about 180,000. We're just finally finalizing the scanning in the time cards. We have to have every receipt, every check paid for those receipts, every time card associated for claiming hours. But that's 180K just for Moore Road Park. And we're finally chipping away at closing out those items as well. And don't quote me, but I am saying it out here, but I want to say it could be.
Actually, let's not say if we don't know it. So it's 6 figures.
So Christine,
Excuse me, it's 5 figures.
Yeah.
Not 6 figures, 5.
So this particular line item that I just brought up as a discussion item, when I compare that end result for last fiscal year to the new adopted budget with the same line item, and this we're anticipating we adopted potentially other revenue income of $517,500. My question is, does this still reflect a heavy dependence on still outstanding insurance payments that we have yet to receive?
Yeah, I think I would have to look at what our assumptions were, but I think that the majority of what we were considering other income was related to essentially insurance reimbursement.
So hopefully, once we bring that to closure, this is going to get a lot better in terms of the reality of this particular line item, I hope.
Yeah. So, and here's absurd things on that. So that number has been so volatile for us for the last 5 or 6 years.
It has.
So we were underestimated here, but we woefully, overestimated on this, but we woefully underestimated in the past when we had multiples of it, just because we had that initial revenue come in that was related to recovery projects. So it's going to be volatile for us for the next couple of years. We try and do an almost an average costing approach to it.
Yeah.
So it may be it'll never hit the average, or not likely to hit the average. We just hope over the next couple of years that we get it closer to it.
Yeah, this is very helpful. I'm didn't mean to belabor this and bring it up, but I think it's helpful for me as this member of this board to understand that relationship, because we've known for a long time, we've been struggling with your insurance provider to come through on these payments for various reasons, I understand, but hopefully this is all going to come to closure eventually over time. Right? And I want to commend the staff for the long hours and work you've been doing on this, particularly Christy. I know she's been assigned this work a lot, and thank you.
I just have a quick question going back to the grant income line item. Would it be helpful, or maybe it would be hurtful, to split that to grant income awarded and grant income applied for?
Yeah, you know that we're trying to do it through different means, because it gets tricky on our books. That it is very clear. We want to have what you see is what you have. So you know, I wouldn't want to do it here, but we are trying to work on some mechanisms on the billing part of it. So I think that may help board members to know, like, how much have we expended, how much is currently invoiced, you know, what's remaining on it. So
that would offer clarity to, I think, for all of us. And
yeah, that's entirely fair, and it is challenging. So we are trying to work on a tool for that, basically a spreadsheet for it to kind of get a better sense on it. You why don't you address that, Christy?
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to also mention that, you know, it's not just the state delays, but it also just the process of development of a brand new project like Lake Ridge, in terms of getting all the permitting and testing for the septic feasibility, you know, digging pits and stuff. It has taken a lot longer than I think either of us anticipated. So you have a certain portion of funds that, you know, are going to be directed towards design development, pre-construction costs. But once you get bulldozers on site and you start doing earthwork, that's when the really big money starts going out. And so we just haven't been able to get to that point yet. And except now we are preparing the RFP templates for 2 major development projects at Billy and at Lake Ridge. So I think that should help realize those numbers.
So here's kind of unsatisfying answers, like, as wrong as we might be today, we're going to be just as wrong the other way a year from now, just because it's going to be the nature of it. So that we're not going to achieve that sort of average. When you look at our 5-year budget, we're probably, well, I have done this actually, that we're pretty close on our budget numbers. Year to year can have some variability, but it's the year to year hitting the target on it. So, you know, and some of these are up, some of them are down from what it is, but
and here's your argument for a 2-year budget. It evens out a little more.
That's true. Yeah. But I think, you know, given our situation, we're going to be volatile until we get some of these things underway. I'm another 2 or 3 years. And then I think we're a lot more predictability on the budget.
Well, and in regards to what Christy just was talking about, once you get the dirt moving with there's going to be big funds go out, and it will be a while before those funds get reimbursed, right? Because of the grants.
Yes, but not as long as it was on the startup on these things, because we had a lot of these were new staff from the state, for example, that hadn't done invoicing before, and they were figuring it out. We've even had turnover since then, but the idea is that I think they've gotten a little bit better at it. We've gotten better too, just learning about how their system is. And I think the key for us has been to not delay these, trying to get them out on a regular basis. So however long it may take them, at least it's not on our end that's slowed down.
I just want to add one other thing to that end. Dan's right that it's not entirely the state's fault. I had to resubmit 11 times to get reimbursed for the Elements grant. And I first started before August of last year, and I had used the wrong form. So they sent me the new form. And then by the time I got that figured out, they had switched administrators. So 11 attempts later, and it almost at times felt like we were reapplying for the grant, having to justify expenditures for things that were approved, which was a very frustrating experience. But I think it's crystallized, at least for me, like what the process is, and get those in early and often. And just be relentlessly pounding away at like, did you get it? Is it approved? Are we getting our check soon? Like, and not obnoxiously, with tact and diplomacy, but it really, that's what it takes, because they've got a multitude of projects as well that they're dealing with. So I think the more clear it is for us, and thank you for approving Jennifer Arbuckle's agreement with us, because she has been hugely helpful, much faster.
Yeah, thanks for that discussion.
Do we have any public comment?
None at this time, Director. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to closed session. All right, it's 7:55 and we're coming out of closed session. The board gave direction concerning the real estate negotiations within district boundaries. And that brings us to board comment, board and liaison comment. Mary? Steve?
Drum roll. Last night, the town council approved the winning bid for the expansion of the animal shelter. We should be breaking ground in August and cutting ribbons first part of 2025.
Jen?
Just make sure to watch the video of me getting to enjoy the aquatic aqua aerobics this week. So we promoted Park and Rec with that. It was really fun.
How do we access that video? Is that on Facebook?
Oh yeah, Facebook Rebuild Paradise Foundation.
All right. I watched the town council meeting last night, and one other item of significant interest with a packed house, a full crowd of people, concerned citizens who came out in mass and supported a potential ordinance for the town to consider adopting, which will suffice to say the ordinance was dialogued and discussed in lengthy detail, and then finally the final result was that the town opted to introduce the ordinance and have it scheduled at their next regular meeting for adoption. But if they adopt this ordinance, it's going to create a new tool for the town to have to help facilitate going after owners that are irresponsible and not maintaining their properties, where it's become significant fuel hazards. And not only that, because of those hazards, some of those locations are next to neighboring properties with homes, and those homeowners on the neighboring properties are finding out that they're losing their insurance coverage, or they're finding out that their insurance is vastly increasing rapidly, that type of thing. This tool will help expedite going after these people, and if necessary, the town would acquire those properties, get it clean. Well, actually, let me back up. With the tool in place, the town would then make the fuels go away and then place a lien on the property based on that expense. And then if the property owner doesn't pay up, it'll be part of their taxes. Eventually, the town, if necessary, can go after the property and become the owners. it's a very interesting concept. It does exist in other jurisdictions in California, which I didn't know about till I watched this meeting last night. But anyway, the ordinance was introduced, so stay tuned. This is going to be vital because once that's in place, that tool is something our staff needs to be aware of too, because as we acquire properties in the town limits, if we're acquiring properties with homes next door in close proximity, we need to be aware of that relationship too. So anyway, that's it. One last thing, all the board members should have received an invitation to attend a summit on July 19th and 20th. That's being put on by Patch, I believe. And I hope some of you are going to come because it's an invitation to all board members of the various entities that are either Patch members or supporting organizations for Patch, that type of thing. It's a workshop session. It's a summit, basically. But I registered to go. I believe Steve, you've registered. I don't know if you recall receiving your invitations. It should have been directly sent to you by email.
I think the latest one was today, number 3 reminder.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen that.
But if you can be available, I strongly encourage you to come because it's a good process. We did that, was it 6 months ago now? You weren't there on that one. Yeah, you were.
Strongly suggest that there's more than 2 board members that attend. You guys sit clearly in separate areas. Yeah, just make sure that you're not in the same group.
Is there any public comment on any? Do we even have any public left?
What you said, seeing none.
All right, and I'd like to adjourn this meeting until our next regular meeting on August 14th at 6 p.m. right here.